Thank you all. Thank you all for coming in and settling in. Welcome to our AI presentation. It's lovely to see so many familiar faces and new faces here and there. And also, welcome to our online audience. It's filming right now. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Susanna Kim. I'm the head of international partners and client solutions here at Talegent. So when I say international, we do have a few international presence here. So for those who are unfamiliar of Talegent, or maybe tuning in online, we are a global talent assessment leader providing fast and effective solutions for recruitment and development. We love our local clients, as many of you are here, but we do have a global presence. And that being said, actually, Jamie and I, a few weeks ago, had an awesome opportunity in Manila to present at a summit. It was about AI, the future of AI. Around 400 people were in the crowd, so it is a bit of a change of pace and nerves right now, and we're really excited to share this with our home crowd as well. So thank you for coming along. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our speaker for today. He's our Chief Science Officer, expert psychologist, leader of AI-driven assessment strategy. He's looked after more than 200 of our clients, so many of you will be familiar with them across training or other psych expert services. If you haven't met Jamie through training yet, make sure you talk to your client success rep about it. Maybe we can change that as well for you. He was the development lead on our amazing Conversely AI assessment, which he's very excited to share with you guys today. So come on stage, Jamie. Give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Susanna. Welcome, everybody. We're really excited to have this group here. It's a bit of a who's who of some of Auckland's HR and talent industry, which is really, really cool, and nice to see people making connections there that few people probably hadn't seen each other in a while. So as Susanna said, I'm Jamie, and yeah, familiar with a few of you, I think. A few of you from some previous life stuff and from the Talegent work. Had lots of you through for trainings, which is always fantastic. So let's crack on. We're really excited to talk about the future of AI and how it relates to talent assessment. The time is now, as it says there. This is a time for adoption. It's a time for openness and trying things out and experimenting. The NBIE put out a really cool report about a month ago outlining the ways in which New Zealand needs to up its game and start to look at the ways to onboard AI into processes. They put things into three categories for AI adoption in business. First one is the area of deeper analytics and insights. So I'm going to be talking about that a little bit today. One example, enhanced candidate matching. Really exciting to talk to you all about that one. The second area is the opportunity for new products and new services, which we're going to be seeing across the board. The example of that, I've got a few of them, but the one that I'm going to be talking about in particular, interactive job previews, is a really exciting development. And then lastly, the third area that the government named as an area for AI adoption across the business industry is the automation of routine tasks. So this is probably the area that people are already starting to find ways to get your processes sorted out. So for us, one area that we're looking at is personalized candidate feedback. These are just a few examples to help warm us up, but it's an exciting time, and we're going to crack in. So in terms of readiness, there is an appetite. A couple of interesting survey results that have come out in the last year or two. So on one side of the coin, the HR companies are growing in their appetite for the improvement of candidate experience using AI. We're seeing there 40% now. I imagine it's going to be higher and higher as the years go on. And then the other side of the coin, this one blew my mind. 3/4 of candidates reporting that they're ready for AI to be involved in some way in their candidate experience. Pretty incredible. Obviously, they're scared of decision stuff at the end of the road happening with AI, but there's comfort in the experience side and of going on that journey, which is really, really positive to see. And I think for all of you, this particular crowd shows that it's a time of optimism and of hope. So in terms of what's this current situation, just a few more findings here that we thought would be interesting for everybody. So first of all, about half of HR professionals are already finding faster turnaround times with processes with AI support. And I already heard a couple of stories this morning of people using AI to support things. From what I'm hearing so far, it's typically around some of the early AI, the CV screeners, things like that. Obviously, people are getting ChatGPT to draft their job descriptions these days and things like that. So those are the early day stuff. The people who are using it, of course, are reporting massive time savings and increased efficiency. And in terms of that increased efficiency, a report that came out of Gartner last year found that we should be expecting up to a third of a decrease in recruitment costs, which is hopefully going to happen. Pretty impressive stuff. And then lastly, the automation of repetitive tasks that I mentioned earlier, again, it's a really exciting time, and it's only going to get easier and more exciting. So how's that affecting us in the world of talent measurement? So there's sort of two sides. One is new data, one is how we're using traditional data. So a couple examples here. New data, things like body language, things like facial expressions. I'm going to be talking about a potential new product in a little while that's going to utilize all of that. And then the traditional data points, so those of you who are using us well, know our competencies well, and values assessments and skills assessments and so forth. So where AI is going to support us here is in the ability to get that data, analyze that data, make decisions with that data. So all three components there of how that data comes to be in use. And then, what does it lead to? Oh, well, that stuff that gets everyone in this room out of bed in the morning, staff retention, job performance, all these sorts of things. So it is a very optimistic and positive time. Okay, intro done. This is our little agenda for the morning, all right? So I'm going to be going into what is AI, get everybody on the same page. Some of it you may be familiar with, some of it probably not. Then I'm going to be jumping into 6 key benefits that we're really excited to talk about in terms of AI adoption in the talent measurement world, talking about those, and then 4 potential risks to be aware of and how to mitigate those risks. I think that's something that's in the back of everybody's mind. Everyone's being told, try out the AI, try out the AI. But you've also got certain checks and balances, of course, that you need to be conscious of. So really excited to talk about that. And then lastly, as Susanna mentioned, out by talking about our AI product and how it's being used. So it's exciting times. Let's jump in. So what is AI? Well, here it is. There's a few components to AI. So machine learning, natural language processing, and generative AI. So I'm going to jump into these and how they are used and how they're going to be used in the future. First one, machine learning. So this has been around for a while now, a few decades now. So these are algorithms that are able to make decisions based on your behavior, not just on how they've been coded. So, your Netflix recommendations, your YouTube recommendations, your Spotify recommendations, things like that. These algorithms aren't just making decisions based on how they've been coded, they're making decisions based on holding your attention, right? You've heard all about that sort of thing. So it watches what you're doing, how long you're spending on certain pages, what you're clicking on. So that's the sort of usage of machine learning that I think is familiar to most people. For us, we're looking into it in terms of some of the recognition stuff, the video interview scoring, which is really exciting. Next up is natural language processing, so NLP. So anyone who's said, hey Siri, or hey Google, or hey Alexa, you've experienced a bit of NLP. Hopefully it understood you and spoke back to you correctly. I know it doesn't always, but they're getting there. And in terms of the business world, it's this sort of stuff. Online chatbots, have been around for a while, and they're pretty useless 5 years ago, but they're getting better if they've got a good enough script. So those two things, the machine learning, the NLP, have really come together, obviously, to support the development of the big ones, the generative AI. So how these work, trillions and trillions and trillions of nodes that are all connected with each other. And all they're ever doing, this is the thing that still blows my mind, and we cannot wrap our heads around it. All those things they're ever doing is predicting the most likely next word. That's all they're ever doing. They're not thinking any deeper than that, and yet it feels incredible, doesn't it? So I assume, actually, should we have a little show of hands? Let's go the opposite. Who hasn't tried a generative AI tool? Okay, there we go. Everyone's done it. And I assume it's ChatGPT or Copilot for most people from what we're hearing. Copilot obviously is able to look at your SharePoint and get its head around all of your documents, and some of that stuff can be really, really impressive. Personally, I've started using Perplexity and Claude a little bit. I'd suggest trying those out if you're getting bored of those other ones. Obviously, the mid-journey and the other image creation is there too. So this is an exciting time, and we're all just figuring out what are the applications of this new technology. It's like somebody walked into the village and they've just created the first wheel, and everyone's scrambling to figure out what to do with that wheel, right? So this is the time we're in. So you can see why we're looking at it as a positive and an enthusiastic time to be around. All right, so let's start hearing about some of these ways to improve things. So first one I'm going to talk about, enhanced candidate matching. So getting those candidates from those large talent pools targeted into the correct funnels, into the correct roles. Next one, talking about interactive job previews, so supporting candidates to have higher levels of alignment with roles as they're going through that candidate experience. Smoother ATS integrations, so supporting the data in, the data out between your ATS and the rest of your HR tech stack. Interactive competency assessments is a really exciting one for us. So getting people out of those fairly normalized personality assessments and into more interactive experiences, something we're excited about. AI interview scoring, so video interviews been such a game changer, particularly since COVID. A lot of you out there using it, I know. But yeah, keen to support you with those ratings and rankings with some AI support. And then lastly, getting that candidate feedback a bit of an upgrade to get some generative AI in there and getting a stronger connection between the feedback and the roles. Right, so first one I said, enhanced candidate matching. So I think all of us have experienced interviewing somebody, sitting there and thinking, hey, this person's great. They're not quite the perfect person for this role, but we've got this role over here that they're going to be better for. So that's cool that you did that, but that takes that human knowledge and that human experience to have that interaction and figure that out currently. The other example that came to mind is, I think we've got a couple of people from Sky City here today. Sky City across the road, they have a large number of high volume roles, housekeepers, cleaners, wait staff, customer service people, and often those candidates are open to being into any of those roles or a couple of those roles. They don't want to just apply for the one role. They want to apply to work for that brand, right? So there's a bit of a job there for a human to look at those applications and figure out which direction to send those particular candidates. So we're really excited to see this move forward with AI support. The Sky City women are smiling at me, that's good. We're excited to see how this progresses and getting AI to support those decisions around funneling candidates in particular directions. The next one, interactive job previews. So currently, if you want to get alignment with your candidates and their applications, the most common way, actually the terrible most common way, is just a paragraph in the job ad explaining what the job is, right? That's the quickest, cheapest, easiest way to try and give some sort of a job preview. But that's pretty low level and not so cool for the candidates. Obviously, a lot of you out there have put together really cool videos that, at the top of your application process, giving the candidates a bit of a preview of what the role's all about. So that's great. Those are good. They often age a little bit after 3 or 4 years, that they often need a bit of an upgrade. And then lastly, you've got the situational judgment tests, which a few of you are using. And for those who aren't familiar with situational judgment tests, it's a psychometric assessment, a talent assessment, where candidates see some scenarios from the real world situation, and then they get asked some behavioral questions about what they would do in those situations. So they're really cool, they're really effective, but they're not cheap to put together. And again, if the role shifts, if the world shifts in a couple of years, it's a bit of a job to give those things an upgrade. So where am I going? I'm going towards talking about an AI-supported interactive experience that gives the candidates an interactive experience so they can make decisions through the platform. We're partnering with a group in Asia who are themselves partnering with Meta, Facebook's parent company, who are currently developing VR job previews, which are really, really cool. People putting on a headset, having a real-world job experience. So it's not just about the candidates getting an experience, it's about getting them aligned with the role. And that we talk about that, people have heard me talk about this before, getting that internal alignment with the role as they go through that journey. So by the time they get to that job offer, they're already picturing themselves working there, doing that job, rather than feeling like it's a foreign thing, it's a new thing. So getting that alignment on that journey, great stuff. And then, of course, for me, the psych guy, I want to get some data out of that experience. So that's the other side of it, is pulling data and getting some competency information out of that. So it's not just a passive, one-sided interaction. So that's obviously a really exciting area for us. Next up, the ATS integration. So currently these are all obviously done fairly manually between all your tech teams from your ATS and the various HR tech stack providers. Where we're excited is for AI to support smarter data interactions here, getting deeper insights out of your ATSs and deeper insights out of vendors such as us heading into your ATSs, and less reliance on tech people being in the right mood to talk to each other to get those data connections built. So it's a really exciting one for us to be looking at as well. All right, this one I mentioned earlier, the interactive competency assessment. So everyone who's done our personality assessment understands that it's a really highly effective experience, but it's a very traditional experience. And the reason for that is our industry does rest on a really solid bedrock of science and validity. And there's really good reason for it to be like that. But clearly with the new world of chatbots and generative AI, we're heading towards chatbots that are able to have a really good conversational experience with you, asking you perhaps some behavioral questions, some of those normative personality type questions, and outputting some really strong competency-based data to you, the employer. So it's a really exciting one that we're looking into currently. Yeah, don't ask for a timeline, but we are excited about developing this one. Main thing for us, of course, as a talent assessment provider is that we have that core rest of validity and science underneath everything we do. So we can't just be spitting out shiny new toys that don't have that sort of stuff. But it is a really, really exciting time, obviously. And you could go on and make some claims around Gen Z and Gen Alpha being a bit more interested in chatting with their phone than chatting with a human, perhaps. So there's that angle as well. So the other one, the AI interview scoring. So I know many of you out there are already using our video interview product, and there are others on the market. So these have obviously been a huge game changer, and for a lot of organizations have reduced the need to have that initial phone screen. For many, they've reduced the need to have that initial interview in some cases. But it still requires, if they're done properly, that they still require 2 or 3 human raters to go and sit down and watch every video and score them. And from what we see from our clients, many are having good best practice and getting 2 or 3 people rating, but we understand that it's not always possible, and there are plenty out there that might just have a single rater going through, which is not ideal from a validity standpoint. So what we're exploring currently is setting up, just point the thing here, at an AI evaluation score that comes in alongside your human evaluation scores, so that you're able to get a second opinion, as it were, based on the information that's in that video interview. It begs the question, hey, Jamie, are you going to drop the human thing eventually one day? Maybe, but let's not start counting chickens too early. As I said, the validity stuff is really, really important. So at this stage, we're just really excited to support you with some AI scores. So watch out for that coming soon. Lastly, on the list of big, exciting benefits, personalized candidate feedback. So those of you who've been on a certification training course with me have heard me talk a lot about how excited I am and passionate I am about candidate feedback and how important I think it is for candidates to get feedback. Obviously, for your mid-level and senior level roles, that's often possible, and that's great, and you people are doing that. But obviously, for high volume entry-level roles, it's often just not feasible to be giving everybody feedback. Even your people who came through first interview in some stages, some cases. So, most of you know, we have a pretty cool personality candidate feedback report. It's giving people some candidate feedback based on their assessment results. But its shortcoming is that it's not reflective of the role so much. It's more reflective of their experience doing the assessment. So where are we going with this? Obviously, we're going to be working towards having feedback reports that are generated for that candidate based on their application, based on their talent assessment data, and most importantly, through the lens of that role that they were applying for. So helping them to connect where they were a tick and where they were maybe not a tick for that particular role. So that's the last one that you can expect to see from us. Exciting times, and yeah, what a load off all of your backs, right? Giving candidates feedback and making sure that you're getting that positive experience. For those of you who your candidates are also customers, this kind of stuff can be a total game changer. Yeah, so exciting times. It's the end of the list of benefits. Hopefully, when you're flicking through the white paper, or when you're back in your office this afternoon, you'll notice that there are a bunch of other benefits in there as well that we want to draw attention to. And you're welcome to follow up with your client success gang on that if you're curious. Right, so let's jump into these areas here, areas of potential concern or areas to be aware of. So I'm going to be talking about potential for bias, going to be talking about data privacy, talking about job relevance, and going to be talking about legislation considerations, okay? So the first one there, biased results. Okay, so why is this one always coming up? It's because in the very early days of AI products and AI adoption, there are a handful of big headlines that sort of went out around the world. I feel like a lot of them were at least 6, 7, 8 years ago, where some AI startup built something like a CV screener, for example, and it turned out to be screening all the migrant applicants or something like that. And there's some health screeners in the US that turned out to be less precise, less accurate in measuring minority groups. So there were some stories like that that came out in the early days, and so it's really important for us to be aware of these things. The reason why these things happen is because it's only as good as the data that goes in. It's the garbage in, garbage out sort of situation. For us, in the world of talent assessment, where we feel that we have some confidence is that we've been worried about bias and adverse impact since day one, right? This is basic bread and butter stuff for us. We do these sorts of checks on our assessments all the time, long before anyone was talking about AI. So for us, this is just another Tuesday worrying about this kind of thing. But the advice is, if you're looking at some provider, whether it's for talent assessment or for any other tool in your HR processes, ask for that data, ask to see what's under the hood there. They're not going to give you everything that's in the black box kind of thing, but they should have some bias and adverse impact studies going on there. I think it's really valuable to keep an eye on that. Had another thought, but I lost it. That's all right. Next one, the privacy breaches. This is another consideration more for us than for you as the consumer, but AI does require really, really high volumes of data. And that is candidate data. So it is something to be conscious of and wary of how you're utilizing these things. And again, the bottom line is the same as the previous one. For us, this stuff's another Tuesday. We don't win massive Asian RFPs without having really good hurdles to jump over in terms of data security and data privacy. So for us, this is basic stuff. But for you as consumers, it's a really important thing to be aware of, that when you're picking vendors and you're choosing tools and so forth, you need to be conscious of what's the data security situation? What are they doing with your data? Have a think about yourselves. Where's your data sitting? Where are those candidate reports sitting? Who's got access to those SharePoint folders? As basic stuff as that. So again, it's worth being aware. The Privacy Act does apply here. So it's a really important one to keep in mind all the time. The job relevance one, I think, is really important. I said the phrase shiny new tools a few times now. So it can be exciting to jump on the bandwagon of a shiny new tool. Somebody's got a new little app. Maybe you're chatting to somebody after the talk and they say, oh, we've got this brand new, I don't know, thing for recommending reference check calls or something like that. If you haven't checked under the hood on the relevance for the role, then you're really impacting the validity of the experience. So, people have heard me do certification trainings, have heard me talk about this. Part of the validity of talent assessments, when I say validity, I'm talking about the predictive power, predicting performance and so forth. Part of that is choosing the right tool for the job. So making sure that the tool is relevant for the role is really, really important, and not being seduced by the thing just because it's pretty cool. I think, I've seen a few examples. We've all seen a few examples, I think, of new shiny tools that come on the market, and then you have a look at the staff, you check them out on LinkedIn, and it's a bunch of sort of AI developers. And if there's nobody there with sort of a people science background, psych science background, it's a massive red flag whether or not certain checks and balances have been in place. And for you as the experts in the roles, same thing. Make sure you're picking the tools for the right reasons, connecting the tools to the roles so that you know that you're measuring the right things. Yeah, really important stuff. Last one, legislation. So this is an important one to keep an eye on. The current situation here in New Zealand is that there is no AI-specific legislation. So our government currently is taking a very open view of AI. very pro AI adoption. So that means they're talking about sort of frameworks and principles, but nothing's set in stone. Considerations that you do need to make, of course, the Privacy Act I've mentioned a couple of times. Human rights stuff is still there, consumer protection stuff is still there, but currently there's no specific AI legislation for us to be sort of concerned about. What you will want to do is just keep an eye on that, okay? So a couple of ways of doing that: keep an eye on the MBIE, keep listening to us because we're keeping on top of it. As an organization, it could be worth looking into. There's the AI NZAI forum. So that's a large member group for organizations who want to keep on top of AI tech and how they're utilizing it. So maybe Google that one when you get back in the office this afternoon, and consider joining as a group. So for now, nothing to worry about in terms of legislation. Just keep an eye on it and follow good practice. Oh, I forgot to mention where is it? We are signatories to the OECH AI principles. It's an international thing, but it's not a hard. It's a list of principles. So it's like a framework for good decision making, good behavior. All right, so we'll wrap things up now by just introducing our current AI tool that's on the market. So it's called Conversely AI, and it utilizes NLP. So remember, NLP I mentioned before is natural language processing, and it's able to, NLP is used for all of those things, understanding text and so forth. So Conversely AI is our tool for language proficiency. So this has had massive uptake for us across Asia, specifically around the outsourced call center market, Philippines and Malaysia and so forth. We've had a bit of uptake here in New Zealand as well, with a few call centers and a few English language schools. So it measures reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And I'm just going to briefly run through each of these and how they work and utilize AI. So the speaking section, it has candidates speak in response to some prompts. They range in difficulty from a basic prompt such as, tell me about what you do in a day in your hometown, through to something more complex and challenging, such as, tell me about an issue that your community or your country is facing and what are the different sides and who's impacted and what might be some solutions. So by asking people a range of prompts like that, it's really interesting. You know, a beginner to intermediate level will nail that first question and you think, oh, maybe they're really, really good. And then you get on to that tougher question and you find out how they're actually like. So, but you don't need to worry about interpretation. It's done for you through our AI service, okay? So it listens to the audio and outputs a score based on it's called the CEFR framework. It's the International Framework for Language Ability. Measures all these things here: fluency, speed, pronunciation, relevance, and so on. Next up is the writing component, which works similarly. Candidates get a few prompts, they type, and it interprets the text that they type. Looks at grammar, looks at relevance, looks at cohesion and style. So again, really effective one, and it's been really cool for some of our call centers that need it. Next up, listening. So this one, as you can imagine, the candidates listen to some audio, it's a conversation, and then they answer some questions. Again, it ranges in complexity from a couple people talking about a day in the park, like that, up to a more complex argument around which restaurant to go to and what to do about this political situation. So it says there, it looks at comprehension, looks at interpretation of opinions and attitudes. It's become a really effective one for us for that call center context. And then lastly, the reading one. So on the surface, looks a wee bit similar to our verbal reasoning assessment for those who have seen that. But where it differs is that it's more about the deeper understanding, the opinions, the deeper interpretation of the text. And again, it outputs in those CFR levels, which you'll see right now. So for those of you familiar with our stack rank table, looks like this. And the conversely data comes through on the same sort of scales across with whatever other data points you have. So I don't need to give you all a big lesson on this right now, but basically we're all in this room C2 level native speakers, and a beginner is an A or A1, A2, B1, B2 is sort of your mid-level intermediate speaker. So you can imagine where I'm going. The people who are using this are able to put in thresholds and pass-fail sort of stages for people to progress through. The report is really cool. In addition to having those scores, it has details on some of the specifics around the grammar, for example, the fluency, the cohesion, and the relevance. You are able to click a button and listen to an excerpt of their speaking sample from what they did, and also have a read of their writing response to some of those writing prompts as well. So a quick case study just to round us off. So Insight, massive multinational organization, they're using us in the Philippines and in Malaysia for their tech support call center. And they were able to put Conversely right up at the top of their candidate journey, and it enabled them to filter out. As you can see there, they wanted people who are near native, so we're native C2 or near native C1. They wanted people at that level, and so they were able to get 54% through, so filtering out 46% of the candidates right at the top who were never going to have any success in the role. So massive time and cost saving for them to implement this one. So yeah, that's one we're proud of, so you can see why we're sharing it. All right, I think I'm at the bottom of my list now. So thanks everybody. I'll hand it back to Susanna. I think we're going to do a little Q&A time, aren't we?
Thank you, Jamie. That was very insightful. With the insightful conversation that we just had, I'm guessing there's a lot of questions around here. So if you're online, please type your question on our Q&A Teams button. If you're here with us, just your hand high, and I'll take the mic over. Don't be scared. Any questions?
With Conversely, what language is it? Just in English? And it's two questions. And do candidates receive feedback in terms of how they can improve in terms of that? Yeah.
Currently just English, but we have scoped out a Spanish version just earlier this year. So that's quite exciting for us to be looking at. In terms of candidate feedback, so we don't have a specific candidate feedback report for this particular product, but the report is written in a way that does enable users to chuck stuff into emails and flick it back to candidates and talk them through their results. Yeah, we have found so far that most ESL learners are familiar with that particular framework. Not all, but most are. Particularly those out of Asia and South Asia. So it's been really effective for giving them feedback on that, yeah.
Thank you, Jamie. Any other questions?
Just an interesting one around the client feedback report. Like, it always seems to focus on the individual and how they measure up against the competency. But often when you're explaining to people why they didn't get a job, you're referencing the successful candidate. Without breaching privacy, can you see that actually starting to get to a point where you're actually saying, hey, you didn't get the job, the qualities we're looking for are these, but this person who was successful had these other qualities, or
so telling them this is what you look like from our perspective. Here's why you didn't get the job, and what was the third thing? And
I'm trying to remember myself actually. It's more around why how they compete against the successful candidate.
Oh, sure. Okay, yeah, okay. So, I mean, everyone's given people bad news before, right? So, don't usually focus too much on the other candidates, and so we wouldn't be incorporating that into a candidate feedback report. It's more about showing a level of alignment of how well you connect with the competencies that are required for the role. So, yeah, that's why we're so excited about that generative version, right? Because it's able to take into account the details of the role rather than just saying you're high or low. Because currently, you'd probably have some candidates who are missing out on the role and getting a candidate feedback report that probably looks pretty good. And they missed out on the role for other reasons. Maybe it's an education thing or a previous experience thing or something like that. But you know what, Chris, you just reminded me to say something else, though. We absolutely want to disconnect assessment results with application outcomes, right? You're looking at assessment results in that wider view alongside other aspects of their application, how they got on in the interview, what the story is with previous experiences and so forth. From the candidate side, it shouldn't ever really be as simple as you failed the test. We don't want to get into that territory for lots of reasons. So yeah.
Lots of exciting new products coming up, and we use a lot of your older legacy ones as well, but because we have a very varied client base that come to us with real ad hoc needs for different kinds of roles that we maybe haven't recruited for them in the past. So we're always having to go to them with suggestions of which products we use in this instance. I don't know if I need some more training on it. I find it very difficult to conceptualize all the products that you have on offer.
Yeah.
And what to recommend as the best like bundle or whatever for them each time.
Yeah.
I now have access to your full brochure of everything, which is great. I wonder if the AI could be developed in a way that we could tell Talegent, okay, we've got a client looking to recruit this role or this kind of recruitment campaign.
Yeah.
What would you recommend from your suite of products? And we can then easily say, yep, we'll have that, and maybe not that.
Okay, this is going to sound like I planted that question because I've got such a good answer. So if you asked us that question a couple of years ago, we would have said, book us in for a meeting and we'll talk you through some recommendations and, get you on the training and get you a bit more conscious and aware. But guess what? I've got a slide here. This happens to be the next slide. That's our product roadmap. Right. So we're very excited about this one, the Campaign Builder migration. So we're in the process of updating our Campaign Builder, and what we're currently exploring, just secretly, is functionality for you to upload a job description and for it to recommend some potential tools. All right. So that'll be a first draft campaign that you'll be able to go in and make some changes to if need be, but it'll at least get you on the right path. So yeah, as I say, work in progress, but we're very excited about that. We put the slide in thinking, I wonder if anyone's going to ask us a question. It's going to get us to this slide. And what do you know? It's the third question.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Jamie. Round of applause for Jamie. Thank you. Before we go, one more very exciting thing, actually. We have actually made a new candidate journey video, linking it to Jamie's conversation around the candidate journey and their experience.
At Talegent, we offer velocity and precision talent measurement solutions. Velocity is for accelerating your high-volume hiring with data-driven insights in real time, while our precision portfolio measures more in-depth assessment for your individual contributors. Let's start with high-volume roles like graduate, call center, aged care, retail, and apprentice selection. Are you struggling to screen those candidates? Talegent has the answer with Velocity. By seamlessly integrating with your ATS using our competency-based AI measures, we map the candidate journey through awareness, application, screening, selection, and checks, with the focus on ensuring a positive candidate experience. Your candidate's journey begins with awareness. To ensure you optimize the quality of your talent pool, we can provide a realistic job preview. This includes a short video and an insight into your company culture, providing candidates with an opportunity to self-select. Here's an example of Expedia's and Deloitte's.
Hi there, thanks for checking in to Expedia. We're so excited that you want to start your adventure with us.
Our one defining purpose is to make an impact that matters. We are looking for passionate graduates who can make a difference to our people, our clients, and our community. Someone who can immerse themselves in our culture of collaboration and face challenges head-on. Sound like you?
Once candidates have self-selected, they're ready to complete your ATS application form. We integrate with over 20 ATS partners, including Oracle, Smart Recruiter, PageUp, and beyond. Our AI assessment data seamlessly pulls through, improving workflow and ensuring all the results are available. You can move back and forth from your ATS to your Talegent dashboard without needing to log in. 4 screening assessments are available: Value Screen AI, Competency Screen AI, Video Interview AI, and Situational Judgment. With Value Screen AI, we'll map your company values for person culture fit. This can be represented with a video to really show off your organization's culture to candidates in an engaging way. Next, we have Competency Screen AI. By assessing the key competencies, we ensure that you're measuring for specific job-relevant traits. Our Video Interview AI provides deeper insights. Candidates record responses in their own time for you to review at your convenience. Looking for something in-depth and job-relevant? During situational judgment, candidates are given a virtual job tryout via role-based scenarios. This generates highly specific data, predicting person-job fit.
He's asked me to read over our assignment and get it back to her by Monday, but I finished work late.
I think the mail's already gone out for this week.
Scores from values, competencies, video interview, and situational judgment are stack ranked in our data-driven table. enabling you to easily identify high-potential candidates. Now you're ready to focus on selection. That's where Competency Select AI comes in, delivering deeper insights and competencies you want to know more about. As you delve deeper into specific candidates, our Interview Hub will instantly generate relevant competency questions, providing you with comprehensive insights, so you can view the interview scores and assessment data right next to each other. You can also use it to schedule and assign interviewers. Assessment centers provide a more well-rounded way to evaluate a group of candidates, consisting of a variety of exercises such as group discussions and presentations. These activities confirm candidate strengths and culture fit in a real-world environment. When you're finished, all the results will be available directly alongside other selection data from Competency Select AI and Interview Hub. You can also generate summary reports to compare your top candidates, making it easy to decide who to progress. Once you've received your Talegent Intelligence results, it's time to confirm your top candidates. Whether it be reference checking with a partner like XREF or background checking with Kinetico. This marks the final stage in sourcing the best talent in a predictive, scalable, and timely manner. We'll set you up with a Velocity demo so you can experience firsthand the predictive power of our talent measurement solution.